This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Flowify. Flowify is far and away the best piece of mortgage technology that I have used. I was one of the first users back in 2013, and it was a game changer when it came to upgrading my client experience. At its core, Flowify is the simplest way to streamline the document collection process with your borrowers. The user interface is simple to use and intuitive, which is great for client interaction and experience. If your borrower can browse and upload an email, then they can use Flowify. It creates buckets of what is needed, what is pending, and what we have, so you can avoid all of the back and forth and the "I already sent you that 5 times" conversations. It automates reminders. It's cloud-based, so you don't have to download a big piece of software that slows your computer down. You can access it anywhere you can get online, or even through the Flowify app on your smartphone. The milestone updates provide a simple one-stop communication portal with all parties in the transaction, including buyer's agents, listing agents, escrow or attorney contacts, and transaction coordinators. We've seen it cut down on status calls into our team from realtors and borrowers by about 80 to 90%. There's so much that Flowify does, it's actually hard to keep up. Just recently, they've updated their 1003 loan application to an interview-style loan app instead of just a fill-in form web form. I just did the demo, and it is awesome. I really am excited to get started on it. It's the perfect complement to your CRM and your LOS. If you're like me and your company uses Encompass, it communicates seamlessly with Encompass to avoid a bunch of the double entry work. There's embedded DocuSign within the system. There's account check so you can link to your client's bank records so you don't need to get statements. It goes on and on. So get more efficient. Your processors will thank you. Your underwriters will thank you. Your bank account will thank you. Sign up today and get 25% off your first 4 months by going to flowify.com/sauce. That's FLOIFY.com/SOSS.
In a perfect world, we'd love to be able to build homes here. Obviously, that's not realistic economically. For us, we wanted to stick to the one-for-one model because it sounds bold. For every home we sell, we donate a home to a family without one. Yeah. I mean, no one else is doing that.
You are listening to the Loan Officer Strategy Session podcast, where top producers answer your mortgage origination questions. To get your questions answered, check out our Facebook group, Loan Officer Strategy Sessions, or submit direct to the website for upcoming episodes at lostrategysessions.com. Now, here's your host, Andrew Sauce.
Okay, welcome to Loan Officer Strategy Sessions. I am your host, Andrew Sauce. Today on the show, we have Chad Engle with Casa Real Estate. Chad is a friend of mine and a realtor partner with whom I work. Chad has been selling real estate for 7 years, but about 18 months ago, he created his own company with his brother, Nick, and they have a very unique business model. They have taken the one-for-one model and applied it to selling homes. If you're not familiar with the one-for-one model, it's where you donate something for every something that you sell. So the most famous of these would be like Tom's Shoes, where they donate a pair of shoes for every pair of shoes that they sell, or Warby Parker, where they donate a pair of eyeglasses for every pair of eyeglasses that they sell. Well, Chad and Nick have applied this model to real estate, believe it or not. For every home they sell, either representing buyer or seller, they build a home for a family in South America. Let that sink in. It's conscious capitalism at its finest, and I'm proud to bring Chad on the show to talk about his company, his vision, as well as some of the nuts and bolts of how they actually executed and what he thought about from an economic standpoint when jumping into this endeavor. I always suggest watching a quick 4-minute video to get an idea about what Casa and Chad are all about before you listen to the episode. If you go to casamovement.com, the video will autoplay. It's about 4 minutes, really, really well-made video. And it'll give you kind of a little bit of a backstory about what Chad's all about. It is my distinct honor to introduce you to my friend, Chad Engle. All right, we are here with Chad Engle with Casa Real Estate. Chad, thanks for stopping by the office and agreeing to be on the show. Super interested to talk to you.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Cool. So this is a little bit of a departure from our normal guests. We normally have top producing loan officers and people in the mortgage industry specifically. Chad is a real estate partner of mine. We work together on with clients. He refers me business. I refer him. And he has a really interesting business model that he started with his brother. How long has it been now? A couple of years?
We started in April of 2017.
Okay, so about a year and a half. And what they are known for is building a house in Guatemala for every home that they close. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that the easiest way to describe it?
Yeah. Basically, for every home we sell here, we donate a home to be built for a family without one. And we are working primarily in Guatemala, but that's where we started. And since we've branched out to Colombia and Nicaragua and are really constantly looking for other areas to dive into.
Got it. Let's back up a little bit. Why don't you tell us about like how long you've been selling real estate and then what caused you to want to start Casa?
Sure. So I've been in real estate for almost 7 years now and worked underneath a top producing husband and wife. The wife coached me throughout my early stages. And then, once I kind of got to a point where I knew I was ready to go on my own. Long story short, my brother was changing careers and we had always talked about working together. And honestly, we wanted to do something different. I read Blake Mycoskie, who's the founder of Tom's Shoes. Read his book, Start Something That Matters, which I would highly recommend picking up if you haven't read that. And without sounding too corny, I really always have felt incredibly grateful and lucky that we're able to do what we are here. I love what I do. And I wanted to find a way to take that and help kind of give back. And my brother and I were working, thinking of different ways to be different. And it kind of started with some different ideas of how we could help give back and have that model. And it ultimately ended up with the 1-for-1 model. And after doing some research, we found out that it was actually realistic. And, we spent about a year getting things going before we launched. We're now approaching, it's been about a year and a half or almost a year and a half. And we're just about to donate our 50th home to be built.
That's great.
Pretty cool.
So how did you settle on the company that you're using to help you with that? Did you find the charitable aspect of it first before you came up with the 1-for-1 or decided to do the 1-for-1 model? Like, were you already involved with that charity, or did you think about the 1-for-1 model and then seek out a charitable organization that would help fulfill this?
Yeah, the latter. So once we decided that this is something we were going to do, we kind of started doing our research to find a charitable organization that would align with what we were looking to accomplish. As you can imagine, there's really no shortage of people in need of help out there, and there's no shortage of charities and nonprofits that build homes and do these kind of things. But from our standpoint, we had to find something that primarily fit with our model economically, because we pay for 100% of the cost to build the home out of our commissions. Whether we sell a $300,000 home or a $10 million home, we pay for it. And so it needs to fit into our budget. So that automatically limits things quite a bit. And then, in doing our research, we also wanted it to align with a lot of the things that are important to us. We wanted to make sure that they stimulate the local economy, hire people there, that they're not just giving these people a home, but they're also working to provide a better future for them. The whole teach a man to fish and feed his family for life versus giving a man fish and feeding him for a day. And so this organization and some of the other ones that we've worked with have some different systems in place, like healthcare, access to free healthcare, access to education to kind of help shape their future. So they're not just getting a home.
So what was it like for you going down there for the first time?
Honestly, life-changing. Seriously. I think about it every single day because it puts everything into perspective. It's so easy here to get caught up in our lives. Everyone has their day-to-day BS that they deal with. And you start to worry about the little things of, your internet isn't loading or the little minutia that pisses you off from day to day. And
I only had 400 likes on my Instagram picture.
Yeah. Well, I should have got 500 minimum.
With that hair, definitely.
Do you know how many filters I put on that and how many freaking outtakes it took?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For 400 likes?
We have,
ridiculous.
You get 400 likes?
I don't even have an Instagram account.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to say, I would give you like 50 props. I would like it probably, but I'm just saying, like, generally, that's a lot of likes.
Yeah, no, thanks. Yeah. Appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. But
it's good for you.
I do think that, it puts things into perspective and you start to think about seeing their way of life down there, right? And seeing the things that matter. And it completely shapes and shifts how I think about a lot of those minor things that come up in my day-to-day life, right? And what really matters. Not how many likes you get on Instagram, not your internet working. It matters that you have family, you have shelter, food, a roof over your head. So it's completely shaped the way that
perspective, right?
For sure.
Did you, before getting involved with this, do you feel like you struggled with that, with like having lack of perspective, or have you always been pretty mindful around that?
No, I would say I probably struggled with it. You know, I wouldn't use the word struggle, but I definitely didn't have the perspective that I have on it now. That's for sure. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's completely shifted the way I think about things just on a regular basis. And
what's the name of the organization that you work with?
Primarily the one we work with in Guatemala is From Houses to Homes. We've partnered with different ones. Like I mentioned, in Colombia, there's one called World Housing. And then the one that we just started building with in Nicaragua is called the Hope Project International.
And I know that you were looking to diversify from the original charity that you're working with simply because of you guys were selling too many homes and they couldn't fill them as fast.
Honestly, that was part of it. So a couple things. One, when you start to get into like the dynamics of it, working with a nonprofit organization in a third world country has a lot of challenges, a lot of which we couldn't really foresee and that we're working through still to this day to try and improve upon those systems. Because truthfully, you know, there's a big part of it that yes, we're doing this for the fact that it's feel good, but there's a lot of this that we want to use as our own marketing, right? We want to make sure that people understand what we're doing to give back. And part of that is being able to get content. So we make a trip down there every year, hoping to shift that to 2. But in the interim and all these other times of the year and all these other homes that are being built, we need to have content for those. And to try and get professional photos taken that we can use for our marketing here and for our Instagram and Facebook and stuff.
Without flying a photographer down there.
Right. Is tough. That's still a work in progress to try and get that. And that's part of why we were looking at different organizations, because we've had some challenges with this one. But the other part is what you mentioned. I mean, they're really not built to facilitate us donating 2, 3, 4, or 5 homes in any given month and be able to give us stuff back.
So talk about like the actual homes that are being built. What are the economics of it? What's the local area like where you're building? What do they have now and what are they getting? Because obviously they're not getting a 3-bedroom, 2-bed ranch house.
No,
on a cul-de-sac.
They're not. No, they're not.
It's because you guys are pretty cheap. Is that why like you want to?
It's just because we want to make as much as we can and we don't care about other people.
Clearly.
Yeah. You know?
I hope you guys are getting a sense of every phone call that me and Chad ever
have. Yeah.
It takes us about 10 minutes to get into actual
It really has nothing to do with, it's just as long as we're doing good here and, you know, we drive the cars we want and have as much money as possible.
That's really, at the end of the day.
And then if by some stretch we have money left over, then we'll send it, you know? And that's just how it works. Now, I mean, honestly, so you would be absolutely dumbfounded to see what types of conditions the people are living in. And we find that oftentimes they're very similar in a lot of ways. You know, most of the time the husband has either left the family or has been killed, and you're left with a single mother raising multiple children. Finding jobs is very difficult down there, and they make very little money. So oftentimes they're living on like a parcel of their family's property somewhere, and they have literally a shack on a hill on dirt floors. And as a result, these kids have major respiratory issues. It's not healthy to live outside in a climate where
literally like whatever they can find to prop up and then some sort of cloth.
Yeah, I mean, they have like tin roofs or plastic, but it has holes in it and it rains a ton, and they're literally on dirt. For those of you listening, if you check out our Instagram at Casa Movement or our website, casamovement.com. And that's not a shameless plug, but I mean, there's a really well put together video on our website. It's 4 minutes that shows the living conditions and goes into the detail of what some of these things are that these families endure. And it shows you exactly, you know, what they go from to what we give them. And to answer your question from before, what are they getting? They're getting what is normal there, right? So they're getting, it's a small, basically, I don't even know the dimensions of it. I guess it's probably 15 feet by 10 feet. Cinder block walls, you know, reinforced with rebar, has a window and with glass and a door that locks, and cement, you know, sealed cement flooring. Most of them will have access to water and electricity outside. And it has a roof with a skylight in it and bunk beds. And those types of dwellings are what are common. You know, if you drive around and look at the dwellings around there, that's what they live in. And so really for them, it provides shelter. It provides warmth at night.
And when it floods, it doesn't
Exactly.
go away when it gets really windy. Like that's one of the things that struck me when I watched that video is just the fact of having a door that locks. What a big difference that is.
Yeah, a door, period.
Yeah.
A doorway. And then, one that locks. I mean, to provide safety for these people.
Yeah. Crazy. So you're diversifying into other areas, and I'm sure those other areas are kind of similar to the initial area that you're in Guatemala.
Again, for us, it's about helping people that are in need and making sure that the organizations we align with are ones that share the same goals. I think there's, like I said, no shortage of organizations out there, but there are some you wonder where your money goes, and we don't want to have that concern. So we do quite a bit of vetting on these organizations beforehand before we start sending them money.
What's the economics of it? How much does it cost to build a home in, say, Guatemala or Colombia?
Similar to home prices here, it can vary, obviously, depending upon the location, the organization, all that stuff. But typically, we're looking at about $2,000.
Okay.
And that ranges. I mean, it can go less than that. We have some that were up to $3,500, and you can spend way more than that, obviously, on building homes. But for what we're looking at, it's the average.
Yeah, so you're trying to figure out the best combination of minimum quality standards and helping the most amount of people.
Right.
And your average commission is probably about what, $300,000-$400,000?
Easy. Yeah. I mean, those are like the ones the deals that I don't send you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, you're talking about somewhere in the neighborhood of 10-15% plus of your commission, obviously depending on home price, but on average. On average,
we're looking at about, just in that range, 10 to 15%.
So in our audience here they're all business people, so we're probably more interested in the business side of what that causes. Obviously, there's the charitable aspect of it and the altruistic aspect of it, but from a straight dollars and cents standpoint, in order for your business to be sustainable, obviously this is a big part of your marketing budget.
It is.
So the idea would be that you're using this as your marketing, is replacing sort of traditional, let's call it Zillow, online postcards, flyers type of marketing. And you're still doing that. Obviously, you're still doing some of that stuff for your clients to expose the house because you still need to sell the house. But in terms of your own branding, this is what you're known for. So there's an interesting aspect of like you're front loading a lot of these expenses for long-term benefit potential.
Right.
So you're only a year and a half in. So I would say right now it would be difficult to point, and we've talked about this before, difficult to point to enough specific transactions that you got simply because of this that would actually outweigh the cost of doing it. But the idea would be that it's longer term beneficial, so you're investing in transactions down the road. Would that be accurate?
Absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't have done this if we didn't first and foremost wholeheartedly buy into what we're doing.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we also very much have the goal of this causing people to want to work with us in mind. That's the end goal, is that we realize first and foremost, it takes us being experts at what we do here, right? No one's going to want to work with us if we're not true professionals taking care of their needs first and foremost. And if we can add that as a difference maker and feel good about it at the same time, I mean, it's a win-win.
So in evaluating other, let's say, entrepreneurial charity or this sort of one-for-one model, and there's a lot of realtors, lenders who, will do some sort of token, like we'll donate for every loan that we close $100 to something local.
Right. Sure.
Homeless pets or, Veterans Association type of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's pretty common, but less so on a sort of more systematic and obviously larger basis. Did you guys think about, because I know a lot of people think that there's a lot more that you can do locally in the local community rather than halfway across the world?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on sort of the differences between doing something in your local community, especially being in real estate? Obviously, that might have a more direct corollary towards new business, just from a straight marketing standpoint, because the people that you're helping in that charity might actually be potential clients, and it's a little bit easier to get the word out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people tend to, when they see third world countries, tend to like almost have this mentality around it's this unsolvable problem, so why even try? Versus that you can donate $1,000 to the local Little League and see a tangible, hey, a new fence went up, So when you talk a little bit about the decision of investing your charitable efforts towards South America rather than locally.
Yeah. Well, In a perfect world, we'd love to be able to build homes here. Obviously, that's not realistic economically. And for us, we wanted to stick to the one-for-one model because it sounds bold. For every home we sell, we donate a home to a family without one.
Yeah.
I mean, no one else is doing that.
Yeah.
And that's huge. So yeah, there's certainly a lot of areas that we could invest or donate our money here rather. Our goal was to have something significant and profound that sticks out because honestly, donating $100 here and there, it's great. Don't get me wrong, but it's significantly less impressive in my opinion than doing something to this standard. And so that was kind of our thought behind it. We spent a ton of time. I mean, I have a lot of different domain names that we bought, like 100 real estate we were going to do and donate, feed 100 families. And we thought a lot about different ways that we could help here. And ultimately, due to just the significance of how big of an impact that is to build a home for someone, we decided to help people down there. And also, I know you touched on you can donate $100 and you can see the fence go up at your Little League stadium. Mm-hmm. And that's cool. That's awesome. Our goal was to capture through video and photo content, like what's going on down there and then the impact that we're having. Mm. And when you look at the videos and you look at the pictures of what people were living in versus what type of life we're providing for them now, it's crazy. It's crazy to see.
Yeah, it's much bigger impact than you can potentially have.
And a house is way cooler than a fence. You know? Yeah. I mean...
Well, it's a cinder block house, come on.
Yeah. But there's 4 walls, Fence is just 1 wall. That's boring.
It's like 4 times better.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could build 4 fences.
Honestly, we didn't think of that, but I'm going to rethink our business model now.
No, I mean, there's this movement called effective altruism. Are you familiar with that at all? So effective altruism is basically there are organizations, nonprofits, who evaluate different charities around the world. And most of the time when you see some of these like charity ranking websites, it typically has to do with how much of the money coming in goes towards overhead and how much of it actually goes to the charity. Right. So you see some of the really bad ones are literally as much as like 95% going to overhead and staff and all that stuff, and only 5% going to the actual charitable giving aspect of it. And then some really good ones might be a lot lower, 10% or something. They're looking at that, but that's only one aspect of it. It's actually what they're trying to calculate is the actual total amount of good that can happen in terms of like lessening human suffering for each dollar spent. And it's not even close that you can get a lot more, like a ton more bang for your buck in third world countries than you can here. I mean, it's just the economics of it. So I think people focus on local charities because it makes them feel good, they can see what they're doing. They feel like they're having more of an impact than they actually are simply via proximity. Mm-hmm. But if you sort of get outside of that a little bit and understand that if you saw a family that was living in basically a shed, not even, and getting blown away half the time and having respiratory challenges, and they happen to be next door to you, you'd have a lot more compassion than if they're halfway across the world, you're just pulled back a little bit from that. So effective altruism is a way of sort of calculating that. Yeah. And actually go all the way to calculating like the cost to save a human life. Like you want to save a human life, this is what it'll cost you. And I think it's the most recent figures are something like $3,200 or $3,500 or something like that. And the most effective way to do that is actually malaria mitigation in Africa. Wow. So like buying like mosquito nets, basically they calculate for every number of mosquito nets they buy, they can save a human life.
It's interesting hearing you talk about that because we have so many problems in this world here and in other countries. And I think the coolest thing that I've seen in the past year and a half or however long, since we've been working on it is the impact, not only that it has on the people there, but the impact that it has on people here in causing them to take action on doing something. I don't care if you're donating $10 to charity every month or you're sponsoring a child in another country or you're donating your time, but to see that people care and to see that we're inspiring people to take action, whether it was you donating money, to this same organization, like that's been the most inspiring thing to me, honestly, because we're never going to be able to solve all the world problems, whether we're in the United States or in any other country for that matter.
But it doesn't mean you shouldn't do anything.
Right.
And that's the easiest thing in the world, is to look at some of these things that just be super overwhelmed and just like put your head back in the sand and go look at your Instagram and like forget about it.
Yeah.
I think that's why like going there, has a life-changing impact, because you can't unsee some of the stuff that you see.
Right.
Sure. So let's get back into the business side of it. So talk a little bit about how you articulate to a client. You're not going to lead with it, right?
No.
I mean, you're not until somebody is calling you and saying like, "Hey, I saw what you guys are doing. I want to list my house. I want you to like be in the conversation about listing it."
Right.
I'm sure you're not getting any of that yet, because you haven't sort of reached that tipping point on your marketing to scale. So right now it's kind of like an add-on feature of when you're on a listing appointment.
Yeah.
It's also something you're doing. So are you leading with it? Is that kind of the try to help seal the deal? Like, how big of a piece of your marketing is it right now?
It's becoming progressively larger because we have generated a lot more content. We've made a much bigger footprint. When we first started, it was a cool idea to tell people, and we had a cool video, but we hadn't donated or built many homes. Now we're approaching 50 in just over a year, and that's significant. And so it is becoming a much bigger part of what we're doing. Like now at our open houses, we have videos streaming that we've produced and that people can see. They ask about it. We have different marketing materials and pictures of families that we've helped, testimonials from clients here that have worked with us and been a part of donating a home, even clients here that have been a part of going down with us and building a home. Yeah. And to answer your question, I mean, it depends on who we're working with. If I'm working with someone who doesn't care about that, I'm not really going to talk much about it, Yeah. And there are people who have straight up said, I don't care. I don't care if you build a home for someone else. I'd rather have that money. Good for them. I mean, I'm not going to drive home the fact that what Casa does as much, and I may not want to work with them too. I mean, depending upon how much of a prick they are. But conversely, if I bring it up to someone and they seem interested in it, we go into it and really sell it. Yeah. And it is a difference maker for buyers and for sellers. Yeah. Because if you're a consumer, either looking to buy or sell your home, or if you're a consumer looking to obtain a loan, or a real estate agent looking to work with a lender, and you align with what someone's doing, like they're going to take incredible care of you with your loan or buying or selling a home, and then they're going to have this other chunk of their business that help give back, and you can help be a part of that. Yeah. Absolutely.
So do you tie a specific home that you've bought in a family, almost like the Sally Struthers Adopt a Family, and you get all the little, they write you a letter and all that stuff, is like if I buy a house and you're my agent.
Are you thinking of buying a home? Can I help you?
Thank you. No comment.
Okay.
Do I get a specific, like, am I sponsoring a specific family, or is it I just know that, hey, we closed with Nick and Chad, and we know that that's one more house that they can build?
Yeah. So ultimately, you are attached directly to one family, but that doesn't happen until after we close escrow. So what happens is, we close escrow, we get the funds, we make the donation, and they have a family that we align them with. We're still working on perfecting that process because, as you can imagine, it takes a little bit of time, but working on perfecting, keeping them in the loop through videos and different content so we can provide photos and information about the family so they can know, what the family's like, how many kids, and get pictures.
From a marketing standpoint, I'd say that would be important to get that content into their hands so that they can push it out.
For sure.
It's a lot better
Absolutely.
coming from them than it is coming from you.
And they can share that, and through their social medias. We actually have a video that we're just finishing up right now that will hopefully accomplish just that. Yeah. Basically, that by working with Casa, they help build a home for someone else in need. The other part of it that we've found that to be advantageous that I think would, align into what you do as well, is that from a follow-up standpoint, we put past clients into our follow-up system and are spending time and money mailing them things. We're also sending, making calls ideally quarterly to reach out to them and check in. It's nice to have something to talk about other than just the housing market going up or rates going down, and we can talk about the family they helped, either if we went down there and visited and saw them again, or just Casa in general. It really serves as a different talking point to follow up on. And it kind of like changes the connection too. I guess the more people that we work with that are into Casa, the better connections we kind of have with people, you know?
Yeah, and you're going to start attracting, as you become more and more well-known for what you do, you're going to start attracting people that make their decisions, make their buying decisions, or who they're choosing to work with based upon that. So and there's definitely a big demographic that it's a big component of what they choose to do. Obviously, you've got to be good at what you do anyway.
Of course.
In addition to that, that's why I think that it's a longer-term plan than just, I don't think you would have seen return on it in the first few years. So we can get into that. That's obviously a big gamble, right?
It is. And like I said earlier, we wouldn't have done this if this wasn't something that we completely bought into. So while we had that in the back of our mind that we hoped people would align with us because of what we're doing, we are also at the same time fully committed to doing this with or without that. We believe so much in what we're doing and truthfully, selfishly get so much out of it that worst case, even if it doesn't work, like my brother and I have donated 50 homes in just a short time for people without them. And, you know, like it's pretty cool.
You don't have as much marketing budget.
Yeah. But I don't have as many things here that I can buy.
Have as much stuff.
Yeah. It's tough, you know?
Yeah, no, it's just so easy to get caught up in stuff that's not important.
Amen.
Awesome. So, what's next for Casa? Like, what is on your horizon? What changes are you guys thinking of making? What's next for kind of like the branding? Are you guys growing different agents? Is that kind of part of the plan?
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up because there's a lot of change on the horizon. We've recently hired a videographer and photographer that's with us right now about 25 hours a week, and hopefully that shifts into a full-time position because we really want to work to capture as much of what we're doing here for our social media. And with that changing, it's kind of refreshed our marketing look and from a social media standpoint quite a bit. And as a result, people are reaching out on social media, people that want to work with Casa agents. And it's kind of made me ready, I guess, in a way to start exploring that, taking more people on. That's kind of the next thing is growth.
You want to kind of like perfect the system. Not that it's ever perfect, but
honestly,
get the system running a little bit more on autopilot.
Yeah.
There was a lot of administrative type of work that had to be done getting all this set up.
There is. And a lot that we just didn't know until we've gone through it. Yeah. And a lot that we're still working through now. But we're comfortable enough with what we've got going on that if we start to add other agents and do more business, we can plug them into it. And I feel like we're now in a position to be doing that. So,
have you ever thought about starting a vlog?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that you'd be really good at that. I think especially with this component of it.
Yeah.
I think that would be, if I were you, that's what I would look at doing.
Just vlogging.
I would vlog
so hard.
Your life every day.
Yeah. You think I have an interesting life, do you?
I do. I think that it would be something that, especially with the demographic that you're likely going after who's going to connect with this, probably skews younger.
Yeah.
Probably skews more millennial for the most part. And, you know, that's the new celebrity.
Right. I don't disagree with that. I've thought a lot about and probably definitely way too much about doing it and not just taking action on it. Yeah. Hiring a videographer to be with us is kind of the first step in getting things in order, but also ultimately, hopefully, starting a vlog because I don't disagree.
Yeah. Well,
and then I just got to do more cool stuff so that my life looks interesting.
I don't think you have to. I think actually the interesting part about a vlog is like the ordinary.
The granola.
Yeah. Well, like just the day-to-day.
Yeah.
Reality show was interesting because it was more interesting than scripted shows because it was authentic and real.
Right.
And vlogging, like reality shows, producers got their hands on it and it became scripted. Like when you first looked at some of the reality shows, it was like very unscripted. Mm-hmm. And now like almost every reality show is super scripted.
Right.
So it's basically just a different weird version of a TV show.
Right.
Of a fiction TV show.
Is that why
vlogging is kind of why I think vlogging is more interesting than reality TV because again you get that authenticity.
Yeah.
And I think that the ordinary is actually a lot more interesting and people get more vested personally, I think, and more connected personally when they know it's real instead of totally scripted.
Absolutely.
So
I find myself, and I'm sure most people, or a lot of people do, you spend more time watching people's stories on Instagram or Facebook, and you start to get connected to certain people and what they do. And it's like their own little mini reality show.
It's escapism, right? And people get interested in that. So cool. Well, I want to be cognizant of your time. I know you don't have much to do. So actually, we can probably stay here for another 30 minutes.
Yeah. I blocked out actually the better part of this week for us to just go over stuff.
Perfect. Well, your life's not that interesting, so I don't have anything else to talk about.
Yeah.
So maybe we should just end it here.
And vlog?
I think so.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to start vlogging.
No, seriously, thanks for coming down. And if people want to get a hold of you or have questions about like the organization that you're supporting or the organizations that you're supporting now, or are interested in adding a charitable component to their business, how can they get a hold of you?
I mean, the best way is if you go on our website, which is casamovement.com, just as it sounds, CASAMOVEMENT.com. And then our social media on Instagram is the same, at Casa Movement. And you can reach out.
Slide into the DMs.
Yeah, if you just slide right in, head first into my DMs, I will be sure to respond. Cool. And then I think you can find our personal accounts from there too.
Got it. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming down.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
The information contained in this podcast presentation is for business and professional use only to assist real estate professionals and is not an advertisement to extend consumer credit as defined by Section 226.2 of Regulation Z. Arklatex Financial Services, LLC, NMLS number 22142 DBA Benchmark Mortgage makes no representations or warranties of any kind, expressed or implied, about the completeness, reliability, suitability, or availability with respect to the information, products, or services. All loans subject to borrower qualifying. Other restrictions may apply. Branch Manager Andrew Sauce, NMLS number 259002. Branch located at 140 Newport Center Drive, Suite 210, Newport Beach, California 92660. Contact the branch by calling 949-258-9555. Equal housing opportunity.